Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley and we're going to be doing a 1 versus 1 battle. I'm going to be trying to explore all the different maps that are at our disposal, and this is going to be an unfortified assault on a city. So this one is going to be again against, I should say, Prussian Prince, and he's going to be bringing this Alanic force, and I'm going to be the Eastern Roman Empire. So the city itself is going to be the city of Petrodava, which is going to be north of the Balkans, and we set this up such that I was the Eastern Roman Empire. The idea is we're going to be launching some expeditionary raids against this settlement that's been causing a lot of raids against me, and so what we're doing is we're bringing sort of a punitive force to deal death to these Alanic forces. They themselves have rallied their forces and are now holed up in the city. Now my Roman general, when I was deploying in this fight, is going to be aggressive. He's going to decide that we need to seize the city, burn it down, and we need to do a multi-pronged attack, and he believes in the cowardice of his opponents. And so what I decided to do as that general is I deployed my forces all around the map. And let's go ahead and admire the map. I just have to give a huge shout out to the artists. This time around, these cities look beautiful. I mean, I'm not going to say it looks quite the level of detail of the Siege of Carthage demo that they showed us, but I mean, come on. These cities look beautiful, and I love I haven't been able to see all the cities, so maybe they'll be repetitive down the road, but I mean, this looks awesome. The cliffside looks great, the approaches to the city are looking awesome, and this is actually going to be one of the places that I'm going to be moving up with some of my hidden cavalry forces. But I mean, this is a view that you would have never seen in Rome too, and it just looks absolutely brilliant. So as I said, my goal is to distribute my forces. One of these heavy Clibonari forces over there, another supporting cataphract unit over here. This is actually going to be a bodyguard or a cavalry guard, so very elite troops who were meant to charge through the rear of the opponent, and then two of these actually elite, I believe, committed tenses hidden in the forest. So these guys have done a night march. They've deployed outside the city, and at the break of dawn, they're going to be moving up this hill, seizing the undefended side, and if maybe drawing the attention of the opponents, kind of like something Caesar would have done. You can see actually the townsfolk along the city. Let's watch this. Just walking around, not at all expecting the assault to come from the Romans on that side. So looks like my commander should be happy, but all of a sudden the tides are going to start turning on me. The Alanic forces are not scared at me at all, and their commander, Prussian Prince, is actually going to sally forth against me. This is probably the best move against a spread out Romans. He's going to completely bypass two of my elements. I'm going to quickly redeploy and try and cover my forces, but he's making a beeline for my most vulnerable column of Romans on the approach over here. All I have to guard myself is going to be one group of levies, two of these elite crossbowmen who can deal a lot of death to people on the defensive up on the hills. I mean, these guys are built for armor penetration. Let's go ahead and show you some of these. These guys are just brutally good, very expensive units, and I was going to pepper the opponent with the onager over here as well, but he's going to come out and just counter assault over here. I'm going to just rush to try and get into position. I have some of these really elite axe troops who can actually throw some hand axes, and we're going to start to get some volleys off. I mean, the hill is going to be blocking my line of sight, and they're just going to come crashing down the hill, so the Alanic force is definitely not going to take this city assault lying down. And they're just going to be flattening my units everywhere. There's not much I can do. Some of these warriors over here are going to start throwing some of their axes. So we can actually see if that's going to do any damage. And it might start to rack up a couple kills here and there. But, I mean, the damage has been dealt at this point in time. And they're continuing to swarm around my men. I'm trying to form up. I'm trying to guard these onagers. This is the only thing I have to protect on this side. If I can withstand this assault, then maybe I'll be able to, come in with these forces over here. They've decided to just go ahead and avoid that battle. I guess this is the sub-commander right here, and he's just going to be leading the charge. He has no clue what is going on his right side. Meanwhile, the Roman force is just melting away on this position. Cavalry strikes on all sides, devastating me, absolutely slaughtering my forces. And now here comes the full surround of the cavalry, sweeping down the Romans. This is just bloodshed on all sides. So the Alanic forces are very elite, especially some of their cavalry forces. I mean, they're almost equivalent to the Huns. And so my Romans are melting away on this side. And desperately, I'm going to be trying to push into the city. They do have some reserve troops who've been sent to hold the city. These are going to be the footmen. And look at the view that they have again, admiring the nice aesthetics. But here come the Roman forces trying to charge through the city. And I'm going to deploy one of my spearmen actually to guard the rear and just keep pushing through. Meanwhile, we have more cavalry who are able to move up the hill, more infantry who are also pressing the advantage. So even though we've been absolutely thrashed on one front, on the other two fronts we've penetrated the city, and now we're going to be starting to work our way up towards the central hill. And with units in the back, now we're going to be able to threaten the rear of the defending forces over in this position. So he's going to do his best to tie me down. That's fine, we're going to turn around. And over here, actually, some of our archers are going to get to work to warding off the enemy, taking down some of the towers. So that's going to cease the fire at my rear. And also now we're going to be able to cover my push into the city, unleashing on the Alans, so punishing them for their excursion into the Roman lines. And so this force is going to be kept back. And the Romans here are still holding up. I mean, these Hetarii guards are probably some of the best axe infantry in the game. Very, very elite, and these guys are holding up forever, especially against the enemy. And it looks like some of the axe animations have actually made it into the game. So that's definitely very pleasant to see. But these guys are not going to be able to hold up for long. Some of those brutal animations right there, you can see, I think one of my, oh no, my soldier went down, but he had some nice hacking going on. But yeah, there goes the rest of my forces, leaving a swath of bodies in their wake. And we're going to land some nice cavalry strikes into the rear of this defensive force, so we're going to repay the deaths dealt to my side in turn. And now here comes the charges into the back, trying to break my border guards, but these guys are pretty heavily armored, and with the archer support, we're just going to be able to tank this force. And even though they have a lot of men, they're not going to be able to break this position. They're going to try, and here comes another charge coming into this position. Point-blank shots from my archers as well. We're going to weather the storm and continue to just do damage after damage after damage, blows into these guys. The rest of my forces are pushing for the top. They've been dealt a pretty good amount of damage, losing about 16 men on the way up. These guys are going to go and try and seize the main hall. And actually, some of the townsfolk trying to fight off some of my men, so one of my guys was definitely detained. He's going to want to finish off this villager before the Alanic forces in the distance are going to come to the rescue of this guy here. Looks like we killed him, and now he's going to be able to come up and join the rest of his men at the top. And actually, one of these villagers is extremely pissed off at us. More of them are actually going to try and combat us, even the old women. Some of them are just going to get skewered. So they're doing their best to detain us, keep us from taking the hill. Meanwhile, on the low ground, some of the axemen are still holding up, tying up a lot of the enemy forces. Our spearmen have finally been broken. And now we're going to have to commit some of our heavy cataphract units to this fight, try and basically sacrifice everything. This raid has obviously gone absolutely terribly wrong. We're losing so many men, but we got the opponents pulled out of position. Some of our Eastern Legios are going to be holding these positions, actually doing a pretty good amount of damage to the enemy swordsmen. But we're going to be filtering, actually, ironically, falling back to the central plaza of the opponent. That is where we're now going to make our stand. So here we go, pulling up to the top with the remaining cataphract units. And we're actually going to make a home out of the enemy forces. You can see they are not at all happy with this, so here they come chasing after our men. A lot of bow cavalry, but they can't necessarily take out our heavy forces here just yet. We're going to get some nice volleys against them and ward them off and just try and secure the top pass over here. The opponents, however, are going to land some nice charges into the rear of our forces. And we're starting to take the capture point, but not before the opponents are going to land a couple decent strikes on us, knocking down some of our men. And this is all in an attempt to buy time for the return of the rest of the Alanic forces. More cavalry streaming in, but they really need some infantry up in this fight. So here comes one of those infantry, the Sarmatian warband, is making its way, as well as some other ones here who have finally cleaned up the Roman forces. The Romans have basically been obliterated in the counter assault, and now it's going to be clean up. Basically, the Alanic forces vengefully killing all that they can see. Any Roman standing in the streets is going to be obliterated. Even this one standing down here at the bottom is going to be absolutely wiped out in a combination of all these forces. You can see them cheering. But look what's at the top. Just another line of some of our legions sitting up here. And we're going to try and hold the pass, hold the top. A couple of the axes being thrown down in the hill. And that's going to be enough to hold up this position. We're doing tons of damage to these returning elite warriors, so we'll be able to stem the assault on that front. And over here we're committing all sorts of forces, but the enemy is going to be pouring in from all sides. Just like I said, how the new city designs are really nice with a lot of ways to get up. The opponents are definitely going to be exploiting that, preventing us from using this as a really big defensive position. And they're actually going to be really wearing out our guys who are tired, shaken. The general has died. we're going to be getting some retribution, but it's almost going to be down to the last man on this front. So I'm going to pull out, disengage some of my heavy cavalry. I'm going to have to save them for some of their some assaults on another point. And Prussian Prince is doing the same. He's disengaging his general. He doesn't want to lose that. He's going to be trying to do a lot of damage to my forces over on this front, the Hatari Guard, trying to pick those guys off and waiting on this front, picking me off with a lot of archer volleys. It's not going to do too much damage, but he's whittling me off in the back, and he's just making time for now some of his returning foot soldiers to come back into the mix. So here they go. They're going to be charging into my very tired guys, and that's going to open them up to an assault from the enemy general, which is going to be brutal against me if he can land a nice strike here. He's going to try and shuffle and position himself in such a way that he'll be able to land those strikes, but it looks like actually the Romans have broken before even needing that general. So this is turning desperately against the Romans. I'm going to redeploy some of my forces over here. My cataphract, for example, chasing down and destroying this last unit, and I'm going to be able to countercharge their summation warbands. Meanwhile, the other force that I had positioned over here is being pulled off down the hill and getting countercharged and just roughed up by these units, and they do have their shields up, so they won't be taking too much damage, and they're trying to press their way forward, force these guys back, but here comes the rest of the cataphracts like a swarm of ants. They're now going to be coming up here, sensing the weakness of my force, that they're overwhelmed, and here you go. They're going to take this little gap, and now my guys are going to be routing, and they're going to be pouring through here. The rest of my cataphracts are going to get absolutely slaughtered and surrounded as they try and retreat. My men are in confusion. They don't know where to go. Arrows are now going to start streaming in, and we've seen these guards hold out for a long time, but not against these numbers, not against these ferocious warriors going back. So right here, this is the house of the noble chieftain of the Alans, and here he is finishing off the Romans. He paid a heavy price, but so did the Romans, and this is definitely a fight that I will have to pick better next time. The general is going to, he's going to return as a head in a box to the Emperor, and so the Emperor is not going to be able to push into the northern territories for much longer. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at some of these stats. Definitely a very fun battle. I'm enjoying the mix of troops, and definitely I should have expected this from the Alans. The mounted cavalry is a huge part of Attila, and even though I had almost twice as many men, I lost tons of them in the assault. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much, and peace out.